I'm going to introduce Chuck Davidson from the Manitoba Chambers of Commerce. Him and his team have been an integral part in helping myself and other local chambers and the rest of the businesses in Manitoba, and he's got some messages that he wants to share from their perspective and their side of things. So we'll see if Chuck is ready here. There we go. There's the man. We got him on mute right now. Whenever you're ready. Can I unmute you? Maybe I should just unmute you.
There you go.
Oh, there it is. Excellent. Cool.
Hey, Steve.
Hey, Chuck. How's things?
How are you?
Good, yeah?
Good. Good.
Zoom lag. Awesome. Classic. So we just got off a call this morning. We've been having those weekly chats and really appreciate that to keep us informed on what you guys are doing and from the provincial chamber side of things, and then us obviously feeding you guys information for kind of boots on the ground here. But now we're over here and hanging out at the State of the City address. So thanks for joining today.
That's excellent.
Yeah.
Not a problem.
Yeah. So I'm gonna just maybe disappear here, and I'll let you take things over, and maybe we'll have a little chat after that. Sound good?
Okay. Awesome. Well, thank you to the Dauphin Chamber, obviously on this Manitoba Day, celebrating Manitoba's 150th anniversary. Just to kind of give you a sense as to, and I appreciate the opportunity to talk to the Dauphin Chamber on this important day with your State of the City address, and talk a little bit about some of the things that the Chamber has been working on, specifically the Manitoba Chamber of Commerce, and sort of our role in this new pandemic world that we're living in right now. So, and really talk a little bit as well about the importance of the entire Chamber network in Manitoba and across Canada, and some of the work that we're doing. So really the work that we see as the role of the Chamber network in the situation in the most recent couple of months is really about helping to provide businesses throughout Manitoba and in communities with information on the different programs that exist that are being brought together by both the provincial and the federal government, and how businesses can apply on those programs. So one of the things that we've done at the Manitoba Chamber of Commerce is on our site, jointhechamber.ca, what we've done is we have a listing of all of the variety of different programs that exist and how you can access them. We've got things like pandemic planning toolkits, because one of the things that we've clearly understood as a result of the pandemic and the COVID-19 is a lot of businesses weren't prepared for this, and putting in place information that we think can help these businesses to kind of get through this and to put in place some plans that they can recover quicker. And so those are some of the things that we're really focused on, is really about, providing those local chambers as well with good information that we can share. And I know Stephen does an awesome job in Dauphin in terms of doing that as well. But in terms of some of the things that we're looking at is, upgrades and putting information on our website. We've done video conferences with both provincial and federal ministers so that a lot of our members have the ability to get information directly from or ask questions specifically to. And I think that's important. So what we're really trying to do is make sure that if there's a business in Manitoba that has some questions in regards to any aspect of the COVID-19 pandemic, that they can come to the Chamber network, and we'll do everything that we can to provide some solutions for you and to provide that guidance that you need to answer your questions during these difficult times. The second role that the Chamber network plays is really in regards to the advocacy, and I think it's never been more apparent about the importance of that Chamber network than through what we're currently experiencing. And to give you a good example of what that looks like is that when the federal government is putting down programs, and initially, and it seems like eons ago, but when they first initially outlined what they were doing for a wage subsidy program for business, they'd capped it at 10%, and that was the amount that they were going to initially look at being able to reimburse businesses that were being forced to lay off people through their wage subsidy program. It was really through the advocacy of the Chamber network, who indicated and communicated that directly to the federal government that the 10% subsidy was not going to work. In fact, the reality was most businesses were not going to take advantage of it. It simply wasn't going to be economical enough. And so what we've done is we've gone back to the federal government, and they've increased that 10% to 75%. And so that's a program that as recently as about a week and a half ago was finally opened. and is a program that we think will help benefit a number of businesses throughout the province so that they can weather the storm and get through the current situation. And if it wasn't for organizations like ourselves and hearing directly from business members throughout Manitoba and Canada about the programs that they don't work, it makes it more difficult in terms of being able to provide valuable feedback. So some of the other programs, obviously, that are out there, whether it be the emergency response benefit, which provides $2,000 a month for people that have been laid off or out of work. Again, those are the kind of things that we've recommended, and we're continuing to have those discussions with government to make sure that the programs that they're putting in place are going to be able to match what are needed by businesses to get them through this current situation. And so that's really the importance that we really see of not only the local chambers, but the provincial chamber network to be able to take that information, knowing that we're on calls on a regular basis with government officials and sharing that information with them in terms of whether or not we think the programs are going to be successful, whether or not they need to be tweaked, and what are some of the keys to that. So other programs that are more recent that we've been really working on is that, as we get into the recovery, it's making sure we've got clear communication between what government is outlining, what businesses need, and how we can really rebuild consumer confidence in Manitoba, because that's going to be absolutely critical to make sure that we can get back to some sense of normalcy. And so those are some of the things that we're working on. Other issues that we've heard as we get back into recovery are the challenges that a lot of small businesses are having with personal protection equipment, which is better known as PPE, in terms of what does it look like for business when they reopen? What are the measures that they need to take? And what are the things that they need to have in place so that they can do so in a manner that's going to be safe for both their employees and for consumers and their customers coming into their locations. So what we've heard is this is a bit of a challenge. So one of the things that the Chamber Network is working on right now is the development of a resource that can be used that will help to be almost like a one-stop shop for businesses that are looking for PPE, as well as companies that are out there that are providing PPE. So I think that's important as well, and that's something that's going to be rolled out as we continue to move forward. As we talk recovery as well, I think what's going to be critical from the perspective of organizations like ourselves is that it be done in a very staged manner. But there's a couple things that I'm really focused on in terms of where I want government to be looking at as we start talking recovery. And those three areas are, one is on economic competitiveness, knowing that are we making it easy for business to reopen? Are we doing so in a competitive framework as well? Or are we putting more impediments and challenges in front of business? I think now is the time that we are asking government to take any sort of measures that are going to make it easy for business to open, be very clear and concise with what they're looking to do. And I think that's going to be absolutely critical. The second area is really on economic development. And when I talk about economic development, I really talk about it from two sectors. One is the sector specifically and the various industries throughout Manitoba. What are we doing to support them? We know there are certain industries that are being more impacted, those in relation to hospitality and tourism, and as well as the service industry has been significantly impacted. We're going to need to make sure that we're providing resources for these industries so that they can rebound. And I think that's going to be critical and a push for us on the government as well. Secondly is even from a regional standpoint, making sure that we're looking at supporting the various regions in Manitoba in terms of what's important. And I think one of the things that's become extremely apparent as a result of COVID-19 is the importance of digital infrastructure. And that's something that we as an organization are going to be hugely championing. We understand the challenges from a rural Manitoba perspective that digital infrastructure has played, and that this is a key investment that does need to be made moving forward as more businesses are looking at having to have a digital sense out there in terms of how they move forward. And a digital footprint is going to be absolutely critical for businesses to be able to move forward. So that's something that we're going to be looking at. And third is workforce, knowing that as a result of COVID-19, business is not going to simply go back to normal. This is not going to be a restart. In my mind, this is a rebuild. And when you're looking at a rebuild, we need to make sure that we're putting in place the needs of business and they align with the workforce. And so making sure that we're making investments in in post-secondary to be able to address some of those workforce needs going forward are going to be a critical factor as well. So those are some of the things that we're really going to be focusing on and making sure that we're advocating with government on behalf of the chamber network as well as businesses throughout the province, that we see the importance of that. So that's going to be another very important aspect to what we do. So, I think maybe what I'll do is I'll quickly just conclude again. I don't think that the chamber network has ever been as important as it is today. I think it's important that business owners throughout Manitoba support their local chambers of commerce. They're doing tremendous work to make sure that your businesses have the ability to recover as best as possible, are sharing information, are steering businesses in the right direction, and are taking some of the advice that businesses is giving that we can advocate on your behalf. So, a huge congratulations to the Dauphin Chamber of Commerce and all the work that you're doing, and to keep up that great work as we continue to move forward. And we will be able to get through this together. So, again, thanks to all of the Dauphin Chamber members for your support, and I hope you had a great State of the City address today.
Cool. Thanks, Chuck. Really appreciate that. Thanks for the kind words there. Do you rebuild's an interesting term. That's it's tough to go back to a what things used to be, and we don't even know how this is going to last and where it's going to take us. So there is that concept that we have to keep in mind, like, what's the business going to look like and what's the economy going to look like going forward after this. So any perspective or thoughts onto how things kind of move forward, or where we're like what things look like, a couple of months down the line if things go well for us?
Yeah, and that's what's important, right? And so the strong message that I've been giving to business throughout the province as well is that we recognize when this started that the importance was really focused on healthcare, and the economy came second. And I think now that we seem to have a good handle on the healthcare situation, that's important. But we can't get lazy with this, and which is why I strongly encourage the business community: make sure you're following the rules, make sure you're taking all those necessary precautions, because the damage that we've had to the provincial economy from the last 8 weeks, the last thing that we want to do is to have that second wave, and that's what a lot of people talk about, is what that second wave looks like. And so that's incumbent, and I think businesses have done a great job of making sure that if they're not ready to open, they're not opening. And that's what I strongly encourage. But what's also just as important is that citizens do not get lackadaisical and stop following the rules, and whether it's in regards to social distancing and washing your hands. The public health officers have given us clear direction in terms of how we get back to whatever the new level of normalcy is going to be. So business is prepared to play its role. It's important that citizens as well. I know for a lot of people, it's extremely frustrating. It's been 8 weeks of this, but I think the more that we can do, we will get back to some level of normalcy. And again, why I don't necessarily like the term recovery is because recovery seems to think we're going to get back to what it used to be. And I don't think we're going to get back to what it used to be. And so what I'm strongly encouraging businesses to do is think about what that pivot for your own business looks like, and how you could potentially rebuild your business and what some of those opportunities are going to be. So the hope is that, hopefully we can get through this summer without having any sort of a significant, bounce back or second wave, and that we'll continue to take steps going in the right direction as long as we're continuing to follow the advice of what the healthcare professionals are saying. I think we will rebuild the economy, but we do need to make sure that we've got the supports from the various levels of government on those businesses that have been significantly impacted.
Yeah, it's interesting you bring up the the businesses versus the customer side of things. We had that discussion on Friday, I guess, in our meeting there, hearing from some other chambers that they're hearing from their members that, businesses are open and things are kind of working towards a new normal, but they're finding that the businesses are all set up with the proper PPEs or protective equipments and hand sanitizer stations, stuff like that. But they're finding that some of the customers are, still having those little meetings in the corner of the building and finding people, which is, you kind of want to have those chats, and you're out in the world seeing people again for maybe the first time in weeks, which is nice. But yeah, we have to keep in mind to be careful. I've also touched base with a few of the members here in town that saw, that first day being open or first few days, and they were like super busy, busier than like on a regular, kind of holiday shopping sort of scenario. But they didn't really express any, people gathering or stuff like that. So things are working, I guess, okay out here. But regarding economic competitiveness, like, do you see that Manitoba, because we've had our cases like somewhat low compared to other provinces, are we maybe in a better competitive stance compared to some other provinces?
Yeah, I think we are. I think, some of the things that have come through as a result of this, and some of the advantages that Manitoba has specifically is, we've got a very diversified economy as well. So when you're looking at, job losses and specific, the impact on sectors as well, it's not as negatively impacting Manitoba as others. And I think the fact that, we appear to have, knock on wood, would not have had as many cases as a lot of other provinces have had. I think that's a good sign. I think that we may have been able to get ahead of this more so than other provinces and put in place measures, whether it being, the quarantining and, shutting down of businesses and having more people, basically staying home and following the rules for the past 8 weeks is a good thing. And I think, if you look at the numbers now, it appears that we have sort of flattened that curve as they talk about. The fear, however, is that when you do have numbers like that, does the average citizen get too comfortable? And that's the concern, and that's part of what we heard, is that there's many communities throughout Manitoba that have had 0 cases. And so the impact, and so in those communities, they've had their businesses closed, they've had people laid off with 0 cases. There's some people that will look at it and think, well, why are we going through this? Like, let's just kind of get, back to normal. And that's where I think we've heard the cases from Chambers saying, you know what, people aren't necessarily following the rules as much as they need to anymore. And I think that's a little bit of the concern. And I think it's important that until, public health officials tell us that, okay, you know what, here's the next step that we can take, that this is something that we need to slowly emerge from. The fear would be, you get that one case in your community and you see how quickly it can spread. That could have that could put us into that second wave where we're, again, closing businesses and everyone's back in their houses again.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, everyone's just got to, it's a tough one, but keep playing their part and being as safe as possible and doing their distance. And
yeah, I think, what it's shown is the importance of people being able to work from home as well. And again, that goes back to the importance of making sure that we've got the digital infrastructure that's needed throughout Manitoba, so that it is more and more businesses do have that ability to do that, and it can, they can continue to operate their businesses even though they may not be in an office setting.
Yeah. All right, cool. Thanks, Chuck. Last thing, I'll just give you a shout out. You guys got a survey that's probably coming out this week or maybe next week. So looking forward to that. And I wanted to highlight that a little bit for everyone watching too, that we're going to be sharing it, and watch out for Manitoba Chamber or any other chamber for that matter sharing that information, because you guys need that info, greatly, right? So, and you already had a survey out, and
yeah, exactly. So we'll
really well.
We had great response from the Chamber Network. We'll be doing one again, probably out next week, focusing a little bit more on recovery and just having a better understanding from businesses throughout the province in terms of what they're dealing with and some of the challenges, and providing us with good advice so that we can advocate on behalf of the business community in Manitoba.
Perfect. Cool. Thanks, Chuck. Really appreciate it.
Thanks, Stephen. Today. Anytime.
All right. Let's go with... I don't know. There we go. See you, Chuck. Thanks for coming. Cool. That's it from us. I'm trying to work my mouse on 2 different screens here. Here we go. I'm going to get rid of Chuck. Put me back up there. Cool. Really appreciate it, guys. Thanks for coming out today.